The chamber lights rose like a dawning sun over a restless ocean of alien silhouettes, each creature shifting in its seat as murmurs rippled across the vast marble hall of the Galactic Council. They had gathered to discuss Earth, the tiny blue world they considered loud, inconvenient, overly caffeinated, and entirely too dramatic for its own good. Now, with the Empire claiming responsibility for the deaths of 3 billion humans, the hall felt dangerously charged, as if even the air braced for consequences it could not yet name. The counselors whispered theories with casual arrogance, their tones clipped and smug. A feathered diplomat scoffed that humans cried too much. Alizard's scholar announced they were predictable. A crystalline being suggested humanity might simply talk out their sorrow as if grief were something politely resolved at a dinner table. They laughed, a cruel symphony echoing beneath the high-domed ceiling. Their laughter died instantly when the chamber doors sighed open. A human stepped through alone. Commander Alexis Hale walked with a calm, almost leisurely grace, as though she had just strolled in from a morning coffee run rather than flown across hostile space. Her uniform, a crisp red and black suit with a slim silver stripe across the shoulder, caught the glowing lights overhead. Her hands were full, a simple clipboard tucked under one arm, and in her right hand, a steaming cup of coffee bearing a cheerful Earth logo that read, "Have a nice day." The irony was lost on no one. Her soft smile disarmed half the room. The other half recoiled from it. "Apologies for the delay," she said warmly. "I would have arrived sooner, but your outer perimeter apparently decided to play target practice with my shuttle. Very nostalgic of you. Reminded me off rush hour traffic back home." Several aliens blinked rapidly. One squid-like Ensler fainted. Alexis offered a sympathetic nod to the medics rushing in. "Oh dear, didn't mean to overwhelm him." The presiding counselor cleared his throat, though the sound more closely resembled rocks grinding together. "Human representative, the council appreciates your cooperation during this delicate matter." "Of course," Alexis replied, letting her gaze sweep the chamber. "Humanity is very big on cooperation, especially after someone wipes out a few billion of us. Really brings people together, you know? It's a room tight need as, if pulled by invisible wires." The Empire's representative rose next. A towering, armored beetle-like being with mandibles sharp enough to slice steel. He exuded confidence, honed from centuries of conquest. His voice boomed like thunder rolling through hollow caverns. "Let us not exaggerate, human. Your casualties were an unfortunate necessity, a controlled demonstration, you might say. Perhaps now, your species understands its place." Alexis nodded gently as though hearing a child explain why he broke a vase. "Ah, thank you for clarifying. So, you admit responsibility," he spat. A few counselors flinched. Alexis didn't. Her smile wormed. "Well," she said, tone bright, "that does simplify what comes next." The habitable creature froze. Others shifted with quiet alarm, glancing between her serene expression and the monstrous admission that still hung in the air like radioactive dust. The president-chancellor tried to regain order. "Commander Hale, Earth is known to react with intensity. We must ask what your planet intends to do before the situation escalates." A's. "Escalation is?" "A subjective word," she said lightly. She took a slow sip of coffee, savoring it, the steam curling like ghostly tendrils toward the ceiling. "But don't worry, humanity isn't planning anything drastic. Just a tiny project we prepared. Very small, minuscule, really, barely worth mentioning." A weary, frog-like advisor croaked. "What kind of project?" Alexis set down her coffee on the railing beside her seat with deliberate care. Her fingers lingered on our thrim. Her eyes, not angry, not grieving, not even stern, shone with Acom brightness, far more menacing than rage. "A little operation," she said softly. "One we put together after the Empire killed 3 billion civilians." She paused as though searching for the right phrasing. How do I put this politely?" She tapped her clipboard thoughtfully. "Ah, yes. We call it Operation Eraser." The Chalmers's collective breath vanished. Even the walls seemed to recoil. The beetle representative barked a dismissive laugh. "Do you think your primitive fleets can harm us? Humans rely on emotion and sentiment. Our armadas dwarf your entire solar? She interrupted, with a gentle gesture. Oh, I'm fully aware of the size of your fleets. Quite impressive, especially the dreadnought cluster near the Helion corridor. Her smile sharpened. Fleet positioning is everything. A thin, translucent alien leaned in anxiously. What does that mean? Alexis leaned her elbows on Thadable, like someone sharing gossip at a friendly brunch. Well, I suppose it means they're exactly where we wanted them. A ripple of shock surged through the chamber. Impossible, the beetle hissed. Not really, she said, tapping her wrist pad. Humans are exceptionally good planners. You'd be amazed what we can accomplish when you slaughter our families. We tend to get motivated. The presiding counselor's voice quivered. What have you done? Alexis inhaled, the softest sigh of regret brushing her lips. Too much, and not now. A hologram flickered above her wrist pad, encrypted, red-edged, pulsing with classified intensity. Her smile dimmed into something quieter, something heavier, something that made the nearest row of alien dignitaries instinctively lean back. A message blinked across the screen. One line, one simple confirmation, her eyes lifted. Ah, she whispered. Phase 1 is complete. Gasped Seachode. The beetle lurched forward. What is Phase 1? Her smile returned, sweeter than before. Gentle, lethal, just the first domino. Silence swept Thahol, cold and absolute. Then she looked directly at the Empire's representative, her voice drifting across the chamber like a lullaby wrapped around a razor. You thought wiping out 3 billion OFAs would break humanity? But you don't understand us at all. We don't shatter, we sharpen. Her reflection shimmered on the polished marble floor as she lifted her coffee for another sip. Her hands steady, her expression serene. Outside the chamber, alarms began to echo faintly, distant, ominous, and rising in urgency. Alexis didn't turn toward the sound. Instead, she met the panicked stares of the council with quiet certainty. You asked for humanity's response, she said. You're about towedness, it. Her wrist pad pulsed again, brighter this time. She smiled, and that chamber lights flickered. The alarms outside the council chamber rose like distant thunder, rolling through thick-crystalline corridors in uneven waves that made several delegates grip their seats. Commander Alexis Hale didn't flinch. She merely slid her wrist pad aside and folded her hands with a calmness that didn't match the rising panic around her. Every alien I tracked her, waiting for an explanation, for comfort, for mercy. Though none could articulate why they hoped for those things from a species, now known for unpredictable outbursts and relentless enthusiasm for payback. They wanted to believe she would ease their fears. They were wrong. A three-eyed amphibian finally croaked. Commander Hale, you mentioned something called Phase 1. We must insist you explain what humanity is doing. Alexis leaned back. Posture relaxed, voice soft, like she was about to tell a bedtime story. Well, if you really want to understand, it helps to start with how humans reacted after the Empire's attack. Her gaze sharpened, with a faint sadness. She didn't bother hiding. 3 billion dead cities, reduced to ash, families erased. There aren't enough words for the grief. But there was unity. A fierce, absolute unity the likes of which my species hasn't felt in centuries. The lizard scholar who once mocked humans shifted uncomfortably. Your people united. Oh yes, Alexis nodded gently. World governments linked arms in 14 minutes. Citizens volunteered so fast, our enlistment networks melted like cheap plastic in a microwave. Scientists who hadn't spoken to each other in years formed group chats at 2 a.m. Even our hackers declared a temporary truce, which, trust me, is more impressive than anything else I'll tell you. A few aliens blinked, confused by the cultural reference. Alexis offered a tiny shrug. Point is, humanity didn't break. We aligned. Her voice dropped to a near whisper. And once we align, we build. The beetle representative sneered. Build what? Your primitive technology can't threaten the Empire. Alexis smiled sympathetically, as if comforting a child afraid of Thedark. It's adorable that you still believe that. Before he could respond, she tapped a command on her wrist pad. A hologram erupted above the table. a swirling constellation marked with pulsing red zones, glowing pathways and dozens of arrows converging toward a central choke point. The layout was elegant, terrifying, and far too coordinated for a species supposedly ruled by emotion. "This," she said, her tone bright, "is Operation Eraser." Gasps scattered through the chamber. The hologram zoomed in to reveal clusters of Empire fleets positioned exactly where Alexis had suggested earlier. The beetle creature stiffened, mandibles twitching with dread. "A mechanical Avon," Counselor stammered. "Those are the Empire's primary armadas. How did you relocate Tetham?" Alexis grinned and lifted her coffee again. "Oh, we didn't relocate anything. We simply created incentives." "Incentives?" Another alien echoed in horror. "Humanity is great at encouragement. She'll chirp. We sent false distress beacons, altered star charts, and leaked forged intelligence suggesting Earth had hidden weapon caches across those systems. The Empire is greedy, predictable, and overconfident. You walked right into the places we needed you." A tentacled philosopher trembled. "So, Phase 1 was positioning." "Exactly." She took a delicate sip. "Phase 2 is where things get spicy." The alarms outside throbbed louder, almost synchronized with the rising tension inside. The presiding counselor's voice wavered. "Commander Hale, you must understand the gravity of your confession. If your species destroys the Empire, the political vacuum could unravel the galaxy. Billions of lives could be displaced." Lexis tilted her head with an expression both empathetic and dismissive. "You're acting like we want chaos. We don't. But we also can tallow the Empire to continue existing. They kill children. That's not a political inconvenience. It's a universal death sentence." Her words struck harder than any weapon. Even Thobital representative flinched, a small trembling voice from a crystalline being asked, "Then what is Phase 2? Alex stood pacing slowly along the railing, as though giving a guided museum tour. "Phase 2 involves a sabotage virus, not digital. Those are too easy to counter. No, ours is biologically engineered. A tiny fungus that spreads through power cores, feeding on heat signatures. Your Empire's reactors are especially nutritious." The beetle exploded. "Impossible. No fungus could breach our wall seals." "Correct." Alexis nodded. "Which is why we designed one that could." Her steps were measured. Her voice was soft, but something colder had seeped beneath her tone. "A quiet fury kept under exquisite control," she continued. "We released the spores on drifting rock clusters. The Empire's mining drones picked them up. Your own systems delivered the infections straight into your fleets." The aliens stared with expanding horror. The hologram shifted, showing thousands of red blips, infected reactors dimming into black voids. "1B1, Alexis murmured. "Your ships are going dark, and you are admitting this?" The beetle roared. "Why wouldn't I?" She replied with mild surprise. "You killed 3 billion civilians. Honesty feels appropriate." Her disarming sincerity made the hall shudder. The amphibian delegate croaked again. "Commander, is this Operation Eraser's purpose?" Alexis paused mid-step. Her expression dimmed, losing its humor, replacing it with something deeper, something sorrowful and unbearably calm. "No," she said quietly. "Retribution isn't strategic. Eraser is about prevention. Humanity refuses to let your Empire kill anyone else, human or otherwise." Some millions lowered their eyes, ashamed by their earlier mocking laughter. The beetle hissed. "You cannot eliminate us." Alexis tapped her wrist pad once more. A second hologram appeared. The Empire's capital system surrounded by swirling clusters of human ships. Silent, invisible, patient. She said, "Phase 3 targets your leadership. Phase 4. Well, you won't like Phase 4. What is Phase 4? The presiding counselor whispered. Alexis lifted her coffee, but her hand halted halfway. Her gaze drifted upward as though listening to something only she could hear. The faintest smile touched her lips, so small, so controlled, so terrifying glippled. A message appeared on her wrist pad. Her eyes narrowed. Her voice softened to a whisper laced with terrible finality. "Ah, there it is." She looked at the council, her expression gentler than ever, almost compassionate, yet carrying the weight of a speciest, had been pushed too far. "Phase 2, she said, just activated, and somewhere far beyond the council walls. A distant boom rolled through the fabric of space, as if reality itself had just exhaled in fear. The boom that trembled through the council chamber was faint, distant, almost polite, like thunder deciding whether it should bother rolling closer. But every alien in the room felt it. Their antennae, scales, fur, feathers, and shells twitched with instinctive dread. Something massive had shifted in the fabric of space. Something engineered. Something human. Commander Alexis Hale didn't react immediately. She simply exhaled, as though releasing a breath she'd been holding for far too long. Her expression soft with an emotion no one could name. Relief, sorrow, inevitability, intertwined like threads of the samrope. Her wrist pad pulsed again, casting a faint red glow across her fingers. With the smallest movement, Shed apt to open the live transmission. Hundreds of holographic windows burst to life around the chamber. Every screen displayed an Empire fleet, and every fleet was dying. The first image Shawita, massive dreadnought. Its hull plates rippling as the human-engineered fungus consumed its reactor lines like luminous roots. Whole sections of the ship flickered, dimmed, and collapsed inward with muffled implosions. A second dreadnought spun helplessly as its engines sputtered out, leaving it drifting like a wounded animal, awaiting the final strike. Aliens recoiled. Some cried out. One fainted with a soft thump. Thabadel representatives stared with mandibles trembling. "Turn it off. Turn it off this instant." Alexis sipped her coffee. "No, this is transparency." The council chamber erupted in discord. Voices cracked, howled, screeched. The presiding counselor tried to restore order, but his words drowned beneath a cacophony of disbelief. What they were witnessing defied their understanding of warfare. No species had ever crippled the Empire. No civilization had ever dared. But humans didn't endure massacre. They transformed it. One squid-like elder croaked through trembling tendrils. "Commander, what have you done?" Alexis lifted one's holder in a small shrug. "Only accelerated what the Empire started." Theologram zoomed closer, showing the fungus. Gossamer threads glowing pale blue. Webbing across reactors, data hubs, weapon cores. Every touch caused explosions of sparks or deep internal shaders. It moved with an eerie beauty like bioluminescent vines blooming Gundadur. A crystalline diplomat whispered, horrified. "It feeds on heat." "Correct," Alexis replied. "It loves reactors." Yours were practical agorment. The beetle slammed his claws on the table. Humans are incapable off-sack biological sophistication. This technology, this monstrosity, should know Texist. Alexis met his fury with calm grace, and yet it does. Another hologram shifted Tasho, the Empire's frigates attempting emergency jumps. Their warp engines initiated but collapsed mid-sequence. Imploding in silent bursts that rippled through the void like petals of dark fire, ships fractured, debris emerged. Fleets vanished into collapsing wormholes that spat out nothing. The council chamber fell into a terrible, reverent quiet. Alexis placed her empty coffee cup down, the gentle click echoing oddly loud. Empire fleets always believed themselves invincible. That belief was your first mistake. A bird-like emissary fluffed trembling feathers. And your second. Alexis smiled without warmth. Trusting your own tech. The beetle lunged forward. "This is genocide." "You started genocide," Alexis corrected softly. "We're just ending it." The hologram zoomed out, revealing all 26 Empire fleets encircled by human strike formations. The ships of Earth's armadas were not elegant. They were brutal instruments of survival. Sleek black holes shaped to minimize sensor visibility. Crimson engine rings burning like living wounds. Turrets retracted dinto shells resembling clenched fists. They radiated a quiet, coiled fury, and they waited. The counselors watched, breath held, unsure why the human ship hadn't yet fired. Alexis explained as if reading their confusion. Phase 2 weakened them. Phase 3 studies how they react to fear. That sentence chilled every being in the chamber. The beetle's voice cracked. Fear. You're analyzing your fleet's panic. Yes, Alexis said. Fear reveals truths. How quickly do you turn on each other? How many ships abandon formation? How many officers choose self-preservation over loyalty? Her eyes softened. And how many beg for mercy, only after losing the ability to force cruelty? Screen shifted again, showing exactly what she described. Empire vessels drifted listlessly, while commanders screamed contradictory orders. Smaller ships collided in frantic attempts to flee. Entire divisions fired upon their own escorts in confused desperation. The Empire was so unraveling. A lizard scholar whispered, "This is not warfare. This is dissection." Alexis tilted her head in quiet agreement. Correct. You cannot defeat a monster unless you understand how it dies. The chamber fell into deeper silence. Heavy, suffocating, charged. Then one hologram flickered to a battlefield closer to Earth. A colossal Empire carrier attempted to ignite its main cannon. But the fungus erupted like starlight across its core, devouring the weapon from the inside. The ship detonated in a brilliant blue sphere that faded into drifting ash. The theobittle creature wailed, a raw, primal sound of disbelief and terror. You cannot erase us. You are a primitive, violent, emotional species. You cannot. Alexis cut him off with a soft, almost affectionate tone. We warned you. Her voice was too gentle, too quiet, too final. The beetles staggered back. Alexis continued. Humanity doesn't start fights, but we end them thoroughly. The holograms shifted to show human drip units launching onto disabled Empire hulls. Their armored forms, rapid, precise, ruthless, moved like shadows with purpose. They breached airlocks with controlled explosions, advancing room by room with terrifying coordination. Alexis didn't narrate this part. She didn't need to. The image spoke for her. Humans reclaiming power from the brink of extinction, not with rage, but with unstoppable resolve. A trembling amphibian whispered, How? How long have you been planning this? Since its moment the Empire bombed our cities, she answered, and since the moment the rest of you did nothing. Her bladeness stabbed through the chamber like a blade. Shame cloaked several delegates. The crystalline being spoke with a quivering voice. Commander, humanity is becoming something terrifying. Lexus looked at him gently. Humanity has always been terrifying. You just assumed the smiles mean safety. The beetle staggered to his feet, fury collapsing into desperation. Stop this, please, I beg you. Alexis turned toward him slowly, expression unreadable. You beg now, after your people burn children alive. After you turn playgrounds into craters and hospitals into dust, you have thudacity to beg. He faltered, speechless. She leaned closer, her voice a barely audible whisper. You do not beg from humanity. You answer to it. Her pad chimed again. Every hologram froze. A new message appeared, stamped with Earth's fleet insignia. Alexis inhaled softly, a quiet, almost grieving breath. Phase 3 is complete. The council room seemed to shrink around them, fear tightening like a clenched fist. Delegates trembled. A few whispered prayers to deities who suddenly felt small and distant. The presiding counselors swallowed hard. Commander Hale, what happens now? Alexis lifted her wristpad again, eyes soft with something strangely tender. An emotion caught between lament and conviction. Now comes Phase 4. The beetle collapsed to his knees. Alexis didn't look at him. Her gaze drifted toward the center hologram, an image of the Empire's capital system. Now, surrounded by human worships, like wolves circling a wounded titan. Phase 4, she said softly, is when the Empire stopped screaming. Her wristpad flashed white, and another shockwave rippled through the stars. The shockwave that pulsed through the holograms was not a sound. It's not a vibration, but ashift in the color of starlight itself. An invisible shudder that rippled across every projection in the council chamber. Empire systems flickered. Energy grids dimmed. Cruiser silhouettes expanded into halos of dispersing debris. It was the kind of silence that followed a scream strong enough to tear the air apart. A silence that made every being in the chamber aware that something irreversible had just taken place in the reaches of space. Commander Alexis Hale lowered her wrist pad, the soft glow fading from her face. Her posture remained calm, almost weary, though her eyes carried a new weight, a solemnity that hadn't been present before. The counselors watched her as though she were no longer a representative of a small, stubborn planet, but the embodiment of something vast, deliberate and terrifying. A small, trembling amphibian found his voice. "Commander, what have you done?" Alexis inhaled slowly. "What had to Bedoni?" The beetle representative shuddered, mandibles scraping against each other in disbelief. "Phase 4 can it be what we think? You have no right. You have no authority." Alexis turned to him, but her tone held no anger. It was almost gentle. "I don't need authority to stop monsters. I only need resolve." Another set of holograms flicked to life around her, unbidden. Empire planets, once fortified strongholds, were now darkened spheres, surrounded by the faint static haze of disrupted atmospheres. Not wiped out, not glassed, but disarmed, disempowered, stripped of their fleets, their weapons, their command chain. The council chamber trembled under the weight of the revelation. Humans had not annihilated civilians. They had not extinguished worlds. They had removed the structures that allowed atrocities to flourish. The Empire's weaponized infrastructure was gone, removed with surgical precision, a crystalline diplomat whispered. "You dismantled an empire in minutes." Alexis remained still. "An empire that burned children?" "Yes." The presiding counselor folded his hands, voice unsteady. "Commander Hale, no species should wield this level of force." Alexis lifted her gaze, meeting his stare with quiet intensity. "And yet one species had too. You all watched the Empire expand. You watched them take slaves, destroy colonies, erase cultures. You debated ethics while people died." Her voice softened, but not with kindness, more like sorrow. "Humanity learned long ago that waiting for consensus means burying the innocent." The room filled with remembered guilt, of reports ignored, of warnings dismissed, of Earth's pleas minimized as emotional human overreaction. A feathered emissary gathered his courage. "Your people are dangerous. Too dangerous." Alexis laughed softly. A tired, fragile sound. "We always were. You just thought our smiles meant softness." Silence stretched. She paced slowly around the central table, her fingertips brushing the smooth surface. Every step echoed, not in sound, but in certain. "You misunderstand us. Humans smile at strangers to put them at ease. We smile when nervous. We smile when threatened. We smile when lying. We smile when planning something others should fear." She stopped and faced the council. "The Empire mistook our courtside for weakness." The beetle representative trembled, antennae drooping. What is humanity's true nature?" Alexis considered the question carefully, Isto deciding how much truth the galaxy was ready to hear. "We're creatures who domesticated fire, but still fear the dark. We're social, emotional, stubborn. We cling to hope, even when hope seems foolish. But beneath all that, there's something deeper." She leaned forward slightly. "Humans protect." Her voice softened. "We protect our own with everything we have, and when someone threatens us, truly threatens us, we become something the universe hasn't learned how to name yet." A lizard scholar blinked nervously. "An Operation Eraser. Was this protection? Not revenge." Alexis corrected. "Prevention. A final line drawn across a galaxy, forgetting its conscience." Holograms shifted again, this time showing human relief ships arriving at neutral systems, offering aid to those oppressed under the Empire's rule. Former slaves cried. Liberated planets lit their skies with new colors. Thuchos of war transformed into sparks of celebration. The council stared, stunned. This was not the aftermath of conquest. It was the aftermath of rescue, a tentacled philosopher murmured. "You plan to govern them?" Alexis shook her head. "No, We don't want an empire. We want safety, stability, a galaxy where species don't fear waking to annihilation. The beetles staggered upright, voice cracking with anger, and something almost like despair. You cannot reshape the galaxy. That is hubris beyond even the empire. Alexis smote him with a calmness sharper than rage. We aren't reshaping it. We're fixing what you broke. Her wrist pervaded again. Another update? She glanced at it, then projected the Fidinto the air. Empire leadership, once arrogant and untouchable, now appeared in chains. Escorted by human soldiers through the ruins of their former capital's command center, they were alive, defeated, and surrounded by the silence of a civilization stripped of its ability to do harm. The beetle reeled. You captured them alive. Alexis turned off the feed, her expression unreadable. Humanity solves problems. Killing leaders doesn't solve anything. But dismantling their power that ends cycle. The counselor with steel-plated skin leaned forward. Commander Hale, what will you do now? For the first time, Alexis hesitated. Not from uncertainty, but from the weight of the moment. She stepped to the center of the chamber, letting the overhead lights bathe her in their pale glow. Her shadow stretched long across the marble floor. Now, she said softly, humanity rebuilds what the Empire destroyed, and we expect every species in this room to help. Her voice held no threat. There was no need for one. The message was clear. Humanity had proven capability beyond anything the Council imagined. Their strength no longer needed boasting. It was simply fact. An Avon elder fluttered his wings anxiously. If we refuse, Alexis offered, a tiny, weary smile. You won't. The room trembled, not from fear of violence, but from the realization she was right. Aliens exchanged glances sheavy with shame, resolve, and a dawning respect they'd never considered giving to Earth before. The crystalline diplomat spoke, voice fragile. Humanity has earned a seat among the galaxy's guardians. Alexis exhaled, grateful but burdened. We didn't ask for the role, but we won't run from it. Anather hologram blinked alive. The final surviving Empire system sending a plea for surrender. No conditions, no resistance, no tricks. Alexis dimmed the projection. She turned to the Council.